Dashwatch interview with Sasha and Felix, co-founders of the Dash Thailand proposal.
Hi, my name is Felix from Dash Thailand, one of the co-founders, and I'm here with my partner.
Yeah, hey, I'm Sasha, I'm Felix Partners, also a co-founder of Dash Thailand. So you guys know us for sure from all the social media activities and Dash News interview, etc. We are very happy to be here today and talk a little bit more about what we are doing.
Dash Thailand has now been operational for over 6 months. Could you talk a little about how the proposal and the proposal team is structured and organized?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to go maybe a little bit back at the very beginning because the structure changed over the last couple of months. We started Dash Thailand here in around about September or even earlier. We started with a couple of meetups. Our first proposal we put then online around 2-3 months after, let's say October. And at the beginning, because Dash was more or less not existent in Thailand. There have been no meetups, there have been no Dash acceptance, really zero. So we started first a little bit with meetups to tell people what is Dash and what is our plan, that we want to go into payments, etc. Then we started onboarding a couple of merchants to build out a nice ecosystem, which we did, I would say, successfully. So now we have 50 to 100 Dash acceptances here, also a lot of transactions. I think we come to that point a little bit later. At the beginning, we've been a team from 3 people, but then we grow pretty quick to more people because we wanted to involve Thai people from the community. So we have people who take care about the administration, business development, people who organize events, doing marketing, doing the merchant support because that's very much needed. That's the structure. And I would say now we are, compared to the beginning, less focused on meetups because now we would say everyone in the crypto world in Thailand knows Dash. So no need to do big meetups. So now it's more really about business development. And with all our appearances on conferences, we are also a little bit over Thailand now. So I just came back today from meetings in Tokyo. Felix was last month in Singapore. So we want to do business development also in other Asian countries and even beyond Asia.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that, right? I mean, obviously we are not Thai, but we both speak quite some Thai because we're here for a long time. But of course, we need people. I mean, on one side, Thailand is super international, so you can assume that most people have a pretty good understanding of English. But of course, for many things, writing posts or translating posts is very helpful to have Thai people in the team, and especially when it comes also to explaining technical details to the merchants. So this is why, of course, we always need some Thai people in our team. And one more thing to the meetups. I mean, we still, what Sasha mentioned, we stopped to do the meetups, but one important thing is we stopped to do this kind of, we do a PowerPoint presentation in a room full of people kind of meetups, like the classical crypto meetups, I would say, right? So we changed that focus a little bit to get more involvement from the community and from the merchants. So what we do now, instead of doing a meetup with the PowerPoint presentation, we invite them for a crypto dinner or to join us for a crypto lunch or whatever, right? So we bring some business to our merchants and involve the people to pay with Dash and get transactions. So it's we're trying to get many birds with one stone, let's say, if we now do the meetups.
What skills, connections, and experience does your team bring that make them effective and well-suited to deliver Dash adoption in your chosen location?
From my side, I have a business background, business consultancy, so that's why I focus pretty much on the business development. Felix as well has a similar background. He's the big blockchain expert in our team, so that's why he speak most of the time on the conferences. All our Thai people have business and blockchain background, studied abroad, also the Thai people in our team. And that's a pretty good combination, I would say.
Yeah. My background, I was working for more than 10 years as a banking consultant. So I think it's very important to have a good understanding of how payment works in the classical world in order to get crypto payments started, right? And I essentially fell into the rabbit hole in 2013, 14 by writing a book on Bitcoin. In fact, I wrote the first article on delivering pizza with Bitcoin because yesterday was just the Bitcoin pizza day. So I was reminded on that first article saying, hey, if we need crypto adoption, we need merchants to accept it. And now fast forward to 2019, now we're sitting here and talking about the exact same thing. So it's kind of funny that it comes back to the beginning, but now in a way better way, in a way that we really see real life adoption.
Dash Thailand has shifted focus from single merchant adoption to partnerships with payment service providers, exchanges, financial services, and marketing partnerships. Could you talk a little about this shift in focus and what factors led to this decision?
When we started off here, like Sascha mentioned before, there was really zero Dash or crypto payment in Thailand. Same, which probably goes for most of all other countries. So when we started here, we realized, hey, we have to start somewhere. And starting somewhere means essentially you go door by door, you talk to merchants, you really listen to their needs. So it was rather, the first month was really a design research focused approach where we really try to understand what are the requirements to make it happen in this specific market where we are. And I would call that essentially phase one, which we quite successfully established here now, the ecosystem, a nice running, let's say a nice showcase ecosystem for merchants in Thailand. So we have fantastic restaurants, fantastic some hostels, some free time activities, something like that, some clubs we have in the network. So now we have like a nice ecosystem where really people want to go and where you can really enjoy. But now we're at the point where, like, after we grow that and now that we have that showcase, essentially what happens is that more and more going to conferences, you realize there's so many verticals you have to make partnerships. And it's very much different if you want to onboard a hotel or if you want to onboard a food truck or you want to onboard a restaurant with many shareholders, right? You have to essentially know their processes, know their problems, know all the tech scenarios and the payment scenarios in the background, right? So what happens now with our nice use case is that more and more merchants or bigger merchants approach us and actively come to us and say, hey, we see what you do. It seems like very, very nice and successful. So can we work with you, right? So this is why now we really shifted the focus to, as Sascha mentioned before, to strategic partnerships, to business development, because of course door to door is nice, but like how far can you scale doing that? It's important, very important to do that. But in order to scale, we strongly believe that we have to talk to POS systems, to travel platforms, to even acquirer or issuer banks, right? So we want to scale, and this is, I think, what we have in the network. And I think we will come to these points later when we talk about specific partnerships on how this is important to connect these verticals on all areas.
Why do you believe Thailand is a good market for Dash adoption?
Let's say like when we started a little bit like with Dash here, everyone was talking about the use case of hyperinflation. But we always said like we cannot wait that every country has like hyperinflation, and there are more use cases. And we saw a big use case in tourism. And Thailand is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. Like Bangkok was last year the most traveled city in the world.
40 million people arrive here every year.
Yeah. So you face the problems with changing money. Like we also saw like all the events coming up, like crypto cruise, etc. We saw like a really big use case in tourism. So that's why we thought like Thailand is a very good country to do that. And yeah, so we got proved right. Like, many travelers come here and like they use Discover Dash like to find out where they can spend their Dash in Thailand, in Bangkok. They come also to our meetups. So when you see the meetups, it's like, let's say 80% locals, but always like 20% at least, which who are changing people who are just here like on a stopover traveling.
To be very honest, to add to that, right? I mean, when in the very beginning we were even discussing, should we do only? Actually, we wanted to do Asia, but then we thought like, yeah, maybe Asia is too much of a first proposal for us guys who never put a proposal online, right? So this is why we said, hey, Thailand is a fantastic use case with exactly the things Sasha said. Adding to that is a very proactive and friendly crypto regulation here in this country, which many other countries in Southeast Asia don't have yet, like Vietnam or India. If you look at them, for example, it's way more difficult to make crypto payments happen at this point. So we said, hey, Thailand is a fantastic first step to start. But for Dash, we feel we have to show presence in Asia, right? But Sasha said, yes, hyperinflation is I mean, it's a very sad story and therefore also a very compelling use case to really make the life of people better. But I mean, there's many different markets, right? We have already a team in Europe, and it's super important to have somebody there. There's so many people from Dash in the US, in Latin America. But now, I mean, there wasn't nobody essentially in Asia, right? So this is a very interesting market. And also, if you look at the payment market, it's one of the fastest growing markets for non-cash payments here. We have like so many companies popping up with their QR codes, with their like the next level of card payments essentially. And we really feel that Dash should have a foot in the door because it's a very, very interesting market. And there's so many crypto and non-crypto payment providers and companies popping up. We feel we can bring high value for the whole network by partnering with them and going country by country. So now we are already like, as we will discuss hopefully later, with made partnerships in Korea, in Vietnam, in Singapore. So it's all around already, right? But Thailand is a very nice hub to start it off.
Do you believe a grassroots merchant adoption strategy is the correct and best approach to deliver meaningful results in both Thailand and on a global scale?
I think it's one way to go, but it's not the only way to go. And as I mentioned before, there's different phases, and you have to adopt your strategy on the phase where you are and on the market you are and in the industry you are. I mean, of course, it's nice, but I mean, if you can get 10,000 merchants at once, it brings high value. I think nobody would discuss that, right? It's also high value if you have many like door-to-door approach and you bring many shops and show a nice ecosystem. So I think the most clever way is to combine it in a way that makes sense, that is budget efficient, and at the end of the day delivers results that we can see and the network can use.
Yeah. To add on maybe there, like, I mean, it fits very good to a question we discussed before. I mean, we really needed that grassroots approach at the beginning, like to see what need the merchants, to really show we are here. Like, I mean, many people do meetups or events and talking about things, but we really brought it on the street, and that we brought it on the street brought us then at the end to that bigger partnerships. Yeah, so I think also like we need really both.
Yeah, I mean, from a storytelling perspective, it's very interesting. You know, if you talk to people and you say, hey, we are the guys who made essentially the first crypto payment ecosystem in Thailand, you can see at the look of the people's faces, like, wow, like these guys seem to have something, and we should talk more to them, right? And if you can even then say more, we didn't only make this ecosystem here in Thailand, but look at Dash. It's the only cryptocurrency which essentially has teams around the world to do grassroots approach and to have already running and working crypto payment merchant ecosystems, right? And you from a storytelling perspective, with having that going to scale bigger is just a beautiful and a story everybody understands, right? So people are way more willing to talk to you if you did the grassroots before.
What metrics and key performance indicators should MNOs be using to evaluate your Dash adoption efforts?
I mean, like for the grassroots, I mean, like we posted recently, or like Dash News posted recently, like the transaction numbers and the transaction volume. I think that's both indicators which are very good. Like at the beginning when we started here, everyone was looking on the numbers of merchants you onboard. And I mean, that's just one side. If there's no consumer activation, if no one really goes to that merchants, that's not enough. So that's why I think for like a proper matrix, you need both numbers. You need on one side like the number of merchants, but even more important, like how many transactions happen there and how is the transaction volume. That's for the grassroots side.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, Bangkok is not that cheap of a city anymore. It's still quite affordable and you get good value for your money. But I mean, if you go for it for a dinner, you easily spend like 10 to 30 US dollars, right? So this is, I think we could show that with our transaction numbers that we exactly have these like high transaction volumes per transaction. So this is, I think, an important thing. But of course, it's also, the question is also for who are the metrics, right? One example I have was when we talked to the regulators here in Thailand and explained to them, hey, like we are Dash and we have by far the highest transaction numbers and volumes for any real life crypto payment in Thailand. And they looked at us and say, yeah, but what about trading volume, right? So it really depends on who is looking at these numbers, right? For us, of course, the number of transaction volume is way more important than having a high trading volume, because I want people spend Dash for stuff rather than only for speculation purposes.
What challenges has the proposal faced with its Dash adoption strategies? And what lessons and feedback are you able to share with the Dash network regarding this process?
Yeah, happy to do that. One, I mean, there's several questions, and that's what I said with the design research approach we took at the beginning. I mean, when you ask 100 merchants and 70 of them will tell you the same question, you know this is the issue. You most probably should really find a good answer to. Everybody understands, and if there is an issue, you solve that issue in order to make it happen, right? So the first one, everybody always is asking us like, hey, like, people don't know anything. When you come to them and say, hey, we are a cryptocurrency, they look at you and they really don't understand it, right? So this is one thing we changed to say, hey, we are a payment solution. Yeah, it's kind of like, maybe you've heard of Bitcoin, it's like a little bit like Bitcoin, right? And then we say, but we can offer you in a way that it's as simple as every other payment solution you are used to, because that comes to the second question, like what do I get Thai baht or what do I get if somebody pays, right? And if I hear it's risky, I hear it's volatile, right? So of course, when you're a merchant, you cannot deal with the volatility. So one thing really to focus on is give merchants an option and give them a way out if they need it. Most probably, if they run a business, they will require the cash flow and they cannot bear the risk of volatility, right? So this is why we have to find an option. The second one, which everybody is asking, hey, do I have to invest anything? And the third one is, why should I do it? So the second one, do I invest anything? No, you don't have, because we are Dash. We have like fantastic solutions and they are essentially all free to use. And the third one, why should I even use it, is because, hey, it's a nice target group you don't have yet. And it's called the crypto consumers. And they are big, they are growing, they're young. It's usually a very nice target group to have. And it's a very, it's a very competitive market in every industry. So everybody is struggling for options to find new customers. And this is what we explain to them. We open our social media channels for you. We invite you to do promotion in our social media channels. We list you on Discover Dash and on the AnyPay map. So essentially we give you more exposure to customers, right? And when we then come back after 2-3 months and really customers showed up and asked for Dash, they will realize, hey, there is something, right? And probably this is a customer I would not have without Dash.
What I wanted to add is that we really needed that experience, like that learning. I mean, like I see many discussions like in the Dash forum or on Discord and like suggestions from people. But you really learn if you go on the street and talk to the merchants, then you realize what they actually really need. Yeah. And it's not like just a wallet, it's like so many things around it and they need support, etc.
How many of the Dash transactions tracked by AnyPay in Thailand are organic? And how many, if any, are Dash giveaways or incentive programs fueling these payments?
Yeah, actually, like we don't have to inject anything. So if someone do incentives, then it's the merchant. So like when we go to the merchant, we tell them, hey, you can use our social media channels to promote your business, which accepts Dash, that drives customers to you. That's, for example, one way. They sometimes even give discounts if someone come to pay with Dash. Like, I mean, when you look, for example, at a bar or a restaurant, they do happy hours and things like that. So and now they have a new tool which called Dash, which you can also like use for marketing activities. Like they're doing, for example, crypto lunch, and sure, we help them to promote, but we never use funds to give discounts. So it's always from the merchant side. Also, for example, like today, I just did announcement that we are partner of a conference which take place in June on the 25th and 26th with like 750 plus attendees. Felix will speak there, and they offer the Dash community a 30% discount on the tickets when they pay with Dash. And also like they accept Dash as a payment for the tickets on the conference. Yeah.
And in return, we help them to push the conference, right? Like this is why Sasha shared it in the network, and this is why we try to bring them value. Yeah. Another example is AnyPay, right? I mean, everybody's probably aware of the AnyPay discount they're just giving. If a consumer comes, spends with AnyPay, the consumer gets 10% cash back, and the merchants will get a 10% cash back, right? So this leads to a situation, I mean, most merchants are not aware of it if we don't tell them. So what we did is say, hey, you know what, essentially now you can even give a discount, and if somebody comes and pays, you get 10% back anyway, right? So essentially you give no discount by giving a discount. And for the consumer side, because they get 10% of a transaction back, that means if the merchant gives 10% discount and they get another 10% back, they essentially have 20% discount, right? So this is like how we try to leverage different proposals, in this case from AnyPay, to bring value to the customers and to the merchants at the same time. And I mean, again, like for us, really, it's interesting to show merchants, hey, if you give a discount, it's nice. What we even did was like we do when we go out for some restaurant, there's an app called Eatigo here in Thailand, and if you book a restaurant reservation with Eatigo, they offer you discounts up to 50%, right? So, I mean, why would a restaurant do that in order? Because they, at some times of the day, they don't have enough customers, right? So when we go to them and say, hey, we know you're using Eatigo, and we know that it cannot be in your own interest to give 50% discount for your customer, right? Why don't you give just 15% discount to a Dash customer, and in return, you can do free marketing, right? So this is like another option to show them the value we have, which probably other apps in the market are trying to give you, but you pay the price. I mean, the same goes for all these apps where you can order your food home, right? I mean, for a restaurant, it's not a nice story because they charge you up to 35% for that from your revenue, and that's obviously not in the interest of a restaurant.
Yeah, to say it in a different way, I mean, our value we bring is more on the side of marketing and support rather than on the side of giving money. But sure, like, I mean, it's not that we don't do that at all. I was recently speaking at the university here in front of like around 100 students, and I install them a wallet, and then like to showcase them how it works, I transfer them 10 baht. It's not even $1, like just that they see how it works. Yeah, because we think the motivation should be more in an organic way. But yeah, I mean, there are different ways to go, and maybe also for the marketing value. We got another partnership because I was talking about the conference we have in June, like. Last month we've been to a conference in Singapore where Felix spoke on the stage with Roger Ware, and we got, like, it was a marketing value exchange, to say it like that. We've been like kind of title sponsor at that conference in Singapore without paying for it. Like what we gave was in return the marketing value Dash can offer. And I think it's a big value. I mean, like the Dash community is big around the world. And yeah, so it's a win-win thing instead of paying money for it. We don't think it's a good idea, or we don't go that way.
Could you talk about the significance of the partnership with WinsterPay and lay out the roadmap for operationalizing this deliverable fully?
Yeah, Winston Pay is a very, very interesting one. Winston Pay is essentially what I said before when I mentioned nobody wants to have the price volatility on the merchant side. This means you have to give them easy on and off ramping for Dash, right? The way it works right now is you set up a merchant with a wallet, let's say AnyPay, and if the merchant wants to go out into Thai baht, in our case, we have to connect them to the local exchange. If we do that, obviously the money from a customer has to be sent to the exchange, which usually takes forever because exchanges need like so many confirmations and make everything secure. Number one, and number two is if they want to sell it, they rely on the order book. So you never know what you really get, and you don't have like a 100% sure conversion rate. So what we found with Winston Pay, very, very happy to have found this partner, is a company which is essentially a payment bank, exchange, and payment network. Winston Pay is run by a company which runs back-end banking solutions for 20 years already. And now they're saying, hey, we are experts in FX trading, and we know how the banking infrastructure in the back end works, how risk management of banks works. So we want to we want to innovate, let's say. And what they do is essentially considering crypto as any currency. Essentially, they don't even care, is it gold, is it a Dash, or is it a US dollar, right? They just consider it as a currency and as an option of payment. So what we are doing with Winston Pay is essentially connecting a whole network of banks all around the world on the one side and crypto exchanges all around the world on the other side. That will enable us to give customers and merchants an option to pay to get a locked-in conversion rate and to be 100% sure the merchant can get that money on his local bank account in the market, right? And the difference from other solutions is that by doing that, by partnering with local banks, we don't need the banking licenses all around the world because these partner banks can offer it, right? I mean, the key issue is always who can do the last mile, who can do the transfer from a local bank account to a local bank account. The more banks we have, the better, the more countries we can do, right? We can also settle offshore if this is required. Of course, that makes it a little more expensive, but that can be done, and which is also interesting because in many countries you can essentially use crypto even if crypto is not allowed, because the crypto never touches the country, right? So you can pay in crypto, the money goes essentially offshore, it's transferred into fiat, and then a fiat transfer comes back into the country. So there was never a crypto in this process essentially. So on the one side, the more banks we have, the more competitive rates we get, the faster we can roll, and the faster we can do these settlements on bank accounts. So the merchants can then choose, do I want to do it every end of day, end of week, every end of month? On the other side, we are connecting as many crypto exchanges to that, so we can essentially offer better rates for Dash and give better rates for consumers, right? So, I mean, it sounds very complicated, but in the end of the day, we want to make something like a Visa payment. So when you with your USD-based or US-based Visa card come to Thailand and you spend it, Visa will give you an exchange rate. You can say yes, okay, done, and the merchant gets it to the bank account. It has several advantages for the merchants because in contrast to Visa, the merchants has their own choice when they want to get their money. Do I want to have it again end of day, end of month? I don't have to wait for Visa to give it to me. Or if you look at hotels, I think Expedia requires you to wait 3 months, and you only get the money if you have a minimum on their account. So the merchant can choose this, and we give the control back to the merchant. So I think Winston Pay is very, very interesting. And it's not only a direct connection to the merchant. What is even makes it more interesting and more powerful, that since we have Winston Pay, every single partner we have gets very big eyes when we say, hey, we can do instant fiat settlement for crypto payments. And this is essentially the bomb of this press release, where we feel, hey, we really found like a big piece of the puzzle which we have to solve, or obviously everybody is really waiting for that to happen, right? So most of the partners we are talking to, they are very interested in already talking to Winston Pay. And you mentioned the integration timeline in order to get it going. because it is so important. I mean, we are both from the business side, so my heart is always like really hurting so much if I then have to talk tech and integration, and because I cannot push it myself, right? For me, the business side of things is very easy, and then comes the integration. It is how it is. So I'm really trying to push that, or we are really trying to push that. We got some help from other Dash teams already, from Core, from DACH, from some guys sitting here in Thailand, and they're helping us to answer as much questions as possible and to push them as much as possible to get it integrated very fast. So I expect it really will happen within the next 6 weeks to see the first results of this. But then again, as it is a partner network, the more we grow and the more banks and exchanges we have, the better for this solution. So this is probably rather more than, I mean, we can start in some countries, but to have like every country around the world, probably this will take some time. And I don't want to see the crystal ball now, how long it takes for banks to sign with us. But we have already many in the network. And again, I think in 6 weeks, we can see the first results of that.
Your most recent proposal states, we expect 20,000 plus merchants in Asia due to partnerships with point-of-sales providers. How will these potential merchants be incentivized to use Dash? And how will customers be made aware of the opportunity to now use Dash?
I mean, what one question we have later, and maybe let me talk about that already. What we have started with Dash is because there's so many Dash teams around the world, and many people of us obviously have the same goals, right? We want to get merchants. We want to get the long vision is every merchant should accept Dash, and every consumer should have Dash to spend it. So I think we're all on the same page. So what we realized is that many teams go and do essentially the same things, and sometimes we don't talk enough to each other, right? So this is why now we're very happy that many Dash teams, including us, started an initiative to have weekly meetings and weekly calls on several topics, on business development as well as on the PR side. So there we want to align more our goals. We want to align more our efforts and see what we can do together in terms of shared marketing material, shared sales pitches, sales approaches, and really to go better from there and to have a more coordinated work of working together. I mean, decentralization is fantastic, and I think everybody who ever worked in a decentralized organization don't want to do anything else ever anymore. But on the other side, coming from a corporate background, I mean, streamlined processes also have some beauty and efficiency, which we can learn from. So coming back to the questions with the 20K merchants, how we will do that. We are right now in signing MOUs with several merchants, and many of them already have other partnerships which will bring us in other countries. So there is actually way more than the 20K already is on the agenda. But we want to sign these deals first before we really go out there and sales, like say, hey, this is done already, right? Like, I mean, just to give you a little bit of an outlook, we are right now in talks with 3 hotel booking platforms with like really more than 500,000 room on them. We're in talks with some payment providers who have signed partnerships with more than 10,000 merchants already. We announced already WisePass, which is like in once, I think 400 or 500 merchants here around Southeast Asia. So I mean, the more we go, I believe it's a very very modest number. This 20K we announced in the last proposal. I mean, we're always upgrading that, but sometimes we in the last conference in Singapore, for example, I made so many great contacts, and we are signing, I think, up to 6 new MOUs as an outcome of this, or MOUs as an outcome of this conference. So this 20K probably is already very, very modest until end of the year, I would expect.
How do you guys suggest we ensure that connection between the availability and potential option of using Dash and significant real-world use?
This is a question we are all discussing very much about it, right? And sadly, we're still in the chicken and egg phase. Sadly we have to admit that, right? But as we see it, and then coming back to discussions we have internally with the other teams on a really like weekly basis, we see that there's just a try and error at this point, right? And we have to try many things. So Dash with Bitrefill, what we did with Bitrefill, right? This is something we could try. So we're discussing now on several levels, like which of the merchants, from which team, which merchants brings the highest value, and where should these funds go to, right? Instead of randomly choosing one and say, okay, we get some money to this merchant to give a discount to raise awareness that people can spend there, right? So of course I think that there's the value in talking more with each other and making decisions together on what brings the highest value to the whole Dash network.
Yeah. Maybe to add on to that, like, I mean, let's go back to what I said already before, like the consumer activation is one of the most important things we have to do in the future. And I also think that there, like the marketing value we can bring in is very, very important. So like if new merchants we onboard, like especially like startups, like if they say, okay, like for all Dash customers, we give like 5 or 10% discount. Also to get maybe new Dash users then in, because they say, okay, if I pay with Dash, I get that product I want to buy or that service I want to use even cheaper than when I would pay with credit card or like other cryptocurrencies. Yeah. I think like consumer activation and using our marketing channels is very important to get not only the chicken, also the egg.
What metrics are being tracked to determine the impact of establishing partnerships with other exchanges?
If you want to offer on and off ramping around the world, you are better off offering the most competitive exchange rates in order to get consumers the highest value for their Dash and the merchants what they charge for, right? So this is one thing. The other thing is, of course, the more exchanges and the more Dash is listed on every exchange, the more the visibility is increasing. And then coming back to what I said before with meeting with the SEC, one of the first and most important questions for them was, what is the trading volume of Dash? So this is for us, of course, key to say, hey, we need a high trading volume. And we would like to compete with Bitcoin and Ethereum, which, let's be honest, like Dash is, if you look at the numbers, is far beyond that, right? And of course, it's important to have as many exchanges as possible. By the way, we just started, maybe some of you saw that already in the Discord channels together with Dash Embassy Dach. We have started an initiative to really reach out to every exchange which does not accept Dash yet, and that works quite well. Yeah. Of course, Dash is not paying for exchange integrations, and I also believe we should not pay for that, because we are not like an IO or something, whatever. But the more you try, the more success you will have, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, like to go more in detail on that, like we figured out that like almost half of the exchanges listed on CoinMarketCap not accepting Dash yet, and we really like shoot out emails to all of them. And yeah, as Felix said, the result is pretty good. Like we got directly answers, and I think like the first new integration in the exchange will come up. Actually, they promised us next week, but let's say in the next 2-3 weeks, it's probably more realistic. But yeah, the more exchanges, the better. Like even if it's just for the visibility.
Yeah. Plus, to add again, like on the merchant side of things, I think it's nice to have a Bitcoin Dash trading pair or Ethereum Dash trading pair. Yeah, okay. But again, if you want to give merchants options to go in and out of what they have to run their business with, of course you have to offer always the local fiat trading pair. And in many countries, it's impossible still, and it's still hard. I mean, try to find somebody who trades Dash for Singapore dollars or something, right? How will you ever be able to go in a market if you don't have that? So of course, this is something we should really push hard to have at least a trading pair everywhere in every currency.
Could you explain a little about the partnership with CoinMarketCap that is being developed?
since we are all around in Thailand, and I'm always speaking at so many events, and now it's like a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, the more you speak, the more you get invited, and this is really, really nice. Plus, we like to talk. We are, I think, quite strong networkers. This is one very good skill of us. So there was the what's her role, the marketing lead from CoinMarketCap, and we were chatting, and as it turns out, one of their pains was that everybody is only looking at Bitcoin at their page, and they were like a little bit frustrated with it and say, hey, there's so many other things. Why, like, how can we push that, right? And I was like, hey, like, why don't do something together? Can we do like a blog series? So this is like a marketing partnership we kick off with. I, in fact, just sent them my first draft for the article. So I hope they will like it, and we can publish that soon. But what we said with them was doing essentially a blog series with 5 to 10 blogs in a period. So every 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to publish one. And since we don't want to, like, we think the best story we can tell is that Dash is global, and that there are teams around the world. And on the technical side, there's also like a load of really awesome stuff happening, right? So what we want to do is to share this partnership with the whole Dash community and say, now we did the first article, but from now on, like, other teams around the world are getting the opportunity to write an article for that partnership. And discussing that again with the other teams internally, it turns out that their app right now is does not have the newest Dash news. So now we have a foot in the door, and I already brought up that topic, and it's already brought to the tech department of CoinMarketCap in order to see if we can get Dash News integrated into the CoinMarketCap app as an RSS feed, which obviously I think they pull from, but that still has to be figured out.
That partnership, we are really happy about it, because we think that's going to be a great exposure for Dash. And another time, like, I think it shows like how we try to do the deals, like, always as a win-win. So we don't pay to get like Dash in CoinMarketCap and reach more people. It's really like a win-win. So they look kind of for content. We deliver the content, and they spread the word about Dash. So it's a great win-win, and that's like always our perspective, getting Dash out there.
Yeah. Everybody's always talking about aligning incentives, right? So this is, we believe, aligning incentives, or I mean, always happy to get feedback, right? But like, in contrast to that, right, we see always many people asking for money to go to a conference. You know, I think it's 2019, and there's other ways to do it. So better show win-win, show on both sides what the profit is, and then let's talk, right?
Your proposal discusses developing partnerships and relationships with other Dash-funded projects. Could you explain what partnerships have already been developed, and any plans to continue cooperation and partnerships with other DAO-funded projects?
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned before, like we like Dash, like the DAO is like decentral. So, but we always thought, we really have to get the advantages of both worlds, like of the central world and the decentral world. So, like, I think we started already like end of last year, like at the very beginning of our proposal, that we start talking to different teams, like in South America, in the DACH region anyway, like also with Core. And yeah, so to hear what are their pains, so how we can help each other. And yeah, so as Felix said before, now there are actually like 1 or 2 weekly calls, like one is the more like business directory, one is more in the PR direction. So, and that helps very much to find synergies and like work on projects together, and yeah, avoid to doing things double or maybe miss on the other side one thing. So yeah, that's very great.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at a normal company, right, usually there's a sales department, usually there's a marketing department. If you take that and put it on Dash, there is like X marketing departments and there are X sales departments, because every team kind of has to do it or wants to do it and needs to do it, right? So what what happens sometimes is some very stupid things, right? That we find a contact on a conference and we start writing emails to say, hey, do you want to integrate Dash? And it turns out, damn, like some other team already talked with them like 3 months ago and now we kind of look like idiots that we start a conversation and start asking the same questions. We're like, hey, but we talked about with you already, right? Because on the other side of the window, there is somebody who most likely does not know how decentral Dash is and how decentral Dash is working, right? I mean, you always when you read articles on Dash, right? Always Ryan is the CEO of Dash. Yeah, okay, but technically not. And Core is Dash, but yeah, technically not. So I totally get that, right? But in order to streamline that, we have to know what. And it turns out, talking to these other teams, for example, talking to Core, it turns out that, of course, so many people approach them, but there is just not enough time, right? Because they are really focusing on the core development and on their message, getting out what is happening on the core side, right? So it turns out in many cases they were super happy that we say, hey, we also have this contact. Should we take the lead on it, right? And now we're more and more streamlining and sharing our opportunities to show the other teams what contacts we have, what conversations have already been started. And if somebody says, hey, oh damn, I also had a meeting with that guy, then just push it forward, and we share, and sharing is caring at the end of the day. And it's for Dash, it just makes things way more streamlined and way more efficient. So we are really super happy that these weekly calls are happening now and that we streamline much more than we did before.
The DAO is currently funding 3 embassy proposals in different locations worldwide. Do you believe an embassy structure is the best and most cost-effective way to successfully deliver Dash adoption?
I mean, we started off with embassy because also the guys from DACH were helping us to get there, right? What we personally realized is then if you tell the story being an embassy, the other side always has problems because it has like, why are you in politics or what do you do, right? So what we skipped a little bit that name and said no, from rather call ourselves Dash Thailand, right? So the embassy is kind of a legacy thing, but one is the name, right? And one is the name confusion. The other thing is what are you doing? And then that comes back to what we said before. It's super important to have teams on the ground on localized markets because all these markets are different, right? So I believe it's highly important to have somebody in Europe, in Asia, in South America, in America on the ground where you go out, you talk to people. This is one thing. The other thing is in terms of cost efficiency, right? I mean, look, I was in Singapore and I took a flight to Singapore that costs like not even $100, right? So if anyone from the US team wants to join a conference in Singapore, look at the price for a plane ticket, right? It's just not cost efficient. So in that way, it's I think very good for a decentral organization to be really decentrally also on the regional level, and it brings value and it brings in a way very much cost efficiency for everybody involved, right? As much as I would love to go to Consensus, it's just no point to pay the ticket for me to show Dash presence there, right? So it's better for us to be between Japan and Saudi Arabia probably than it would be for other people on the other hand.
I mean, embassy in every country is probably too much, but like as Felix also said, like I think we should show regional presence, and that's very helpful to spread out. Being local to get global.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and strategic presence. I think that's the key word, right? So I think you cannot generalize like a critique on is like an embassy or a local Dash team. I would rather prefer actually to call it like that because that what makes more sense from a business perspective. Like, is it strategically like clever to have somebody there and there and there? And I think definitely it is for the stated reasons. It's very important not to confuse embassy with a grassroots team on the ground, right? So this is a very important difference. And sometimes I feel there is a mix up of different things which come to that critique, right? So this is why I say, it's like, it's just different networks also. I mean, it's very, very normal. It's very human, right? If you are in, let's say you live in New York and you always go to a New York meetup, of course, like everybody knows you and you know everybody, right? So if you go to a Singapore meetup or to a Bangkok meetup, it's different groups, different companies which are sitting there, and therefore different partnerships you can make, right? So I think the value of having different teams around the world is very, very much also on what networks are you, right? And if the more you spread, the more you are into all kinds of networks, right? I mean, I was living in Germany and working in blockchain since 2014. So I have like a huge network in Europe, and now adding a network in Asia. It's like it brings so much value.
The price of Dash has increased significantly in recent times and will mean a payout this month, if funded, of almost twice the fiat amount requested. How will this extra funding be utilized, as your budget section on Dash Nexus is not broken down into specifics?
Today, like our other partner Tobias is missing. He is the master of coins, to say like this. He do the administration part and all the payments, but like I think I can take on for him in that case. As you said already, like one side is like going back. I mean, we started in October and we always requested between like 17 and 20,000 K USD, and actually like last month was the first month we got over that. Like 1 month was where we didn't get funded, and yeah, so we sent the first proposal in when Dash was over $200, and then it goes like down. So we ended up in some months with like maybe $5,000 or $8,000 at the end. And we invested a lot from our side. So we will take the money who comes in like to cover the costs from the past, but it's just like a minor part. For sure, like we will, number one, like when the new proposal next month is coming out, reduce our budget drastically and fit it to the new Dash price, and also like put on the side, because yeah, we never know, like we are all in the same situation, like the volatility. So now it's good times, and we really hope the times will stay good or get even better, but if not, we will spend the money we get more this month very wisely.
What have been the biggest challenges faced by the proposal in recent times?
I mean, like, to be honest, like, sure, that was a challenge, but less for us and in the founder team, like, namely Tobias, Felix, and me, because like we have to bring food on the table, and as you said, like now Dash is for us full time, more than full time. Yeah? But we got in with a lot of motivation. For us, was not really a problem. It was like actually only a problem when we start growing our team, getting more employees in. And yeah, they had at the end a little bit less understanding, like, because we had it many times there. For people, we understand it because we are in the network for a long time. Like we understand how it works. Sometimes you get funded, sometimes not. The price is volatile, but even if you tell it other people, it's not easy for them to understand. So that was a little bit a challenge, especially in the months we didn't get funded. So we had to talk with our staff and things like that. No one liked to do, right? But going away from the budgeting, because like it was not really like the biggest challenge. Like it was more like the learning phase, like with the merchants and like, well, what is up, but at the end very positive. I mean, like we have all like a business background. For us was not so easy to go really on the street doing sales, but like, I mean, it worked out very well. So because we learned a lot, like we got the word out there, we got the partnerships, and now we are there where we actually want to be.
Funny thing, just Sasha said, right? Like it's really painful to go out and do some stuff. And I mean, but it's on the other side, it's like highly motivating if you did it then and you learn so much from it, right? If you, I mean, nobody wants to go out and talk to merchants, nobody wants to go out and do like sales on the telephone. So it's a tough thing to do, but if you did like a couple of calls, if you're like, hey, it's actually not so bad to do, and hey, I really learned something from myself, and like the way I approach merchants now with my sales pitch, I mean, it's so much better, than obviously 6 months ago. And I think everyone who does that will learn from that, right? This is like, I mean, the question of how you make a challenge, like how you accept a challenge and do the best out of it, right? And get the best learnings out of it. And I think we did quite a good job for all of us.
Yeah, and I mean, like, maybe to add on again, like challenges also, like we not only want to talk about positive things. I mean, like we also, like some merchants we onboard at the beginning, like they dropped off, because like we also did somehow mistakes. For example, like at the beginning, like we said, yeah, we motivated actually every merchant to keep the dash, but then the price dropped. So like it was very hard for us like to go back to that merchant, and they looked at us and said, oh, because of you, I just lost like 50% of the revenue I made, like, or even more. So that are the challenges. So, but from that we learned, we changed the system, and that's why again I always say I'm happy for every suggestion, recommendation from outside. So we talk with a lot of also masternodes and people, and we take all the suggestions, and like we are very open for feedback and we learn. But like it's really different when you go out there and and see what a merchant really need. Like it starts from forgetting passwords to their exchange, like we sometimes we have to help like with all that little stuff, because we are happy about that every merchant to accept Stash right now. Like
yeah. I think our team really shares that vision to say, what is like, it's okay to make mistakes. But it's just important to make it proactive, right? Like it will help nobody if you like point the finger and blame someone until they cry, right? Like talk about a solution and talk about how you can fix it. And this of course goes for merchants, right? I mean, there's one reason is the price drop, so merchants drop out. Another reason is the closed shop and we are not aware of, right? So then suddenly one of the network goes there and say, hey, why is the shop not there anymore? It's still on Discover Dash, right? So sometimes we cannot even catch up, right? And this is also one lesson and one challenge we have. The more you grow with like a grassroots approach and a merchant network, which is there on a map, the more support you have to give in there, right? Because we cannot be in every shop at this point already every month personally to check, is it still there? Do they still accept it? And as Sasha said, right, on the other side, there's so many things which can go wrong. Like is mind-blowing for me how difficult, for example, it is for many people to remember a password, or to remember their own email address, or to open an app which says AnyPay. Things like that, right? So this is why, but again, like it helps nobody to complain about it. So it helps to find solutions, and it helps to give merchants that support they need, because we know already what they're struggling with. And I mean, again, it's like, if you realize 10 people cannot remember their email names, okay, let's put it in our Excel spreadsheet so we can tell them their email.
What advice would you give to other teams looking to develop Dash ecosystems in their area of the world?
I mean, I think every country is a little bit different. Yeah? I mean, we started very close with the Dash Embassy DACH, and we talked with them a lot. And yeah, so like we could learn from their experience, yeah, but we had to make our own, because Thailand works different. Like it starts from the regulations, it starts like from how merchants are structured, and yeah, so I think every country have to find their own approach, but definitely one suggestion I can give is like going out, like talking to the people, try to understand their pains, because not everyone has that knowledge about crypto and blockchain we have. Like not everyone has an exchange account, or like know to sell or buy crypto. Like I mean, you really have to listen to them, see what they need, and then you can build on of that. And like the meetups, also back to the meetups, I mean, like not only from the merchant talks, also from the meetups, we learned a lot, like talking to the people, like what are their needs, what they want, like, going out. That's the most important point, I would say.
It's a lot of internal communication, right? Which you also have to do. One thing is what Sasha said. I mean, before putting a proposal and before doing too many assumptions, what is going to happen? Test it first. Go out and test it. Is it really what you expect it to be? And from there, most probably we'll be able to create a better proposal, more realistic proposal, with good numbers and plan right and. Of course, it's a lot of internal communication as well, which comes along the way, right? So this is, let's be honest, it's some time you have to invest as well. It's not only going out, it's also going into the Dash network and telling people what you do, starting always like proactive discussion and like again in a way that everybody can learn and profit from it, right? Be open to feedback, especially. That's also a very, very important thing, right? This is something I think we are doing quite successful, right? If people give us a comment, we always try to really find like a solution to this comment and to make it happen and to involve people to ask openly for feedback.
Is there any additional news or information you would like to share?
We said we listen to feedback and like we are not afraid to change our strategy. I mean, like we always believed in what we do, but like we are in a very new market, like there's a big learning, and so we try to just always our strategies, and maybe that's like a vision for the near future. I mean, we started with Dash Thailand or with Dash Embassy Thailand. We started with the meetups, etc. But as we mentioned now many times, like we're getting now like Asian-wide, global-wide partnerships. Like to mention another one we didn't talk about, like is mobiletopper.com. Like it's like similar to Bitrefill and in 145 countries. So that has nothing to do with Dash Thailand anymore. So it also fits, I mean, to the new Dash price and to the grassroots approach. So like it fits actually to many things we discussed. So like we at the moment working on new proposals, like I talk in plural because like I mean, on one side, we still want to focus on Dash in Thailand, on the ecosystem, on the tourism, which works very successfully. That's one thing. And then like we want to separate it also to make it more easy, like for the masternodes, for the Dash network to really understand what we are doing. Because there are many informations outside. And when people read the headline Dash Thailand and see also the amount of Dash we requested, sometimes don't realize what we're actually doing, that we also do that global things. So we want to split in future like two proposals, one focusing on Dash Thailand, on the ecosystem and tourism, consumer activation, all that stuff only, and then a second proposal where we're focusing on really like that global partnerships and business development. I think that's probably news like worth to share, and yeah. So we're still working on the details, but like we will publish it soon. So like we're still in the proposal circle for this one, but like next month we're getting it out, and I think that makes things also more clear for everyone out there what we are doing.
I couldn't have said it better. Only what I said before, we are really working on amazing partnerships, and it's like it breaks my heart that I cannot say more at this point. And this is also something, you know, this is like, it's very difficult at times because people expect you to give out the news, right? Where, I mean, we know all how it works. If you talk to a partner and there's like talks on signing MOUs, on figuring out details and everything, you cannot stab the partners back by already announcing stuff they might not want you to announce, right? So this is why we always really want to get everything done and get the confirmation from the partner that we can publish the news. So that's why please network, excuse us if we cannot share it always as fast as we would like to do, but there's a lot of really, really nice stuff coming up. It's going in the direction of travel, in like something like Bitrefill is coming very shortly. There again, like hotel platforms, we are talking to payment providers, gateways, which will connect us to really like a XK merchants at once. So we really expect some big news coming up. One we didn't mention was Bluecon. This is the Korean debit card provider. We expect them to publish their debit cards already this year, the first couple of 100,000, and then scaling in 2020 in Korea.
Yeah, some other thing like we're talking like with big convenience stores, chains, cinemas, like chains. Like there are many interesting things coming up, like and it's not like that we want to share and maybe cannot. It's also like always difficult. Like we want to get out the news, so but I mean still like and again like we are in a new market, so and we're working also with partners who are at the very beginning, so the integration takes time because like everyone in the Dash network is busy, core is busy, but everyone tried to help each other, like also what we said before, like we're working very good together with Stach, and they also help with integration because that's not our strength. So everything takes time, like on our side, on their side, like many problems on the way, even if we think, oh, it's going to be done next week, next month, then something else. Like, I mean, signing an MOU is just a start. Like that's a partnership everyone wants. Everyone is super motivated. As you see on the time, you chatted with me up front a lot. Like sometimes I have the feeling I'm working 24 hours. I'm always reachable. So we are very motivated, and many things will come. And yeah, so yeah.